Well, the new season of Doctor Who is right around the corner, and what's it going to be like to see this new Doctor? How is he going to portray this sense of adventure we know so well in the Doctor? What about his bravery? Those are all important things, but let's think about the most important thing here. How's he going to stack up in terms of RIZZ? How is this Doctor going to compare to all the other Doctors in terms of how much RIZZ he brings to the screen? Well, I'm Our Philosophy Is, and this is Ranking All the Doctors' RIZZ. Number 15. Jodie Whittaker. Okay, I need to say this right off the bat. Not every single Doctor actually employs RIZZ as a part of their character. So Jodie Whittaker actually is a very vulnerable Doctor, and that's kind of what I like about her. She's a mixture of vulnerable and awkward a lot of the time, and that is actually what contributes to a lot of her charm. Her Doctor is a very open Doctor. Her Doctor is a very nice Doctor to have conversations with and be empathetic in these kinds of situations. So yes, I have to put someone at the bottom. It's going to be Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. I'm sorry, but she is at the bottom of this list. Number 14. The Fifth Doctor. Now, this is an interesting one because this Doctor, again, is one that has his own charm, and this is going to be kind of a recurring theme throughout these Doctors at the bottom of the list. But the Fifth Doctor is a Doctor that is, he's very human, he's very humble, he's constantly out of breath, and you know what? He's a very practical Doctor. He's running around, he's trying to get things done. He's not too concerned about putting on the charm and the style and the RIZZ. Now, he does have a vegetable on his coat, and that very much is his style. But other than that, this Doctor isn't very focused on that, and that's okay. This is a very personable Doctor, but number 14 is where he is on this list. Number 13, the Second Doctor, portrayed by Patrick Troughton. Now, interestingly, this is one of the first Doctors I ever saw, and he immediately comes off to you as being the character, the Doctor. He just seems like he's been doing this for a really long time. He's really enjoyable to watch, but people call him the space hobo as the Doctor, and that very much is his style. This Doctor is very funny, but he also kind of has that classic British humor where things are always happening to him and he kind of freaks out sometimes when things aren't going correct. He has a darker side to him, but that doesn't come out all the time. It's mostly his very cheeky, everything's always happening to me Doctor. And that Doctor is very enjoyable, but I'm sorry, I can't really put him any higher on the list when it comes to RIZZ. Number 12, the 11th Doctor. Now, I know this is probably going to be one of those picks on this list that's a little bit more controversial, but let me explain this. Just like I said in the last one, with the sort of awkwardness, things are always happening to me, charm of the Second Doctor, this is like that turned up to 11, because this Doctor is highly, highly charming, but that charm comes from awkwardness, and Matt Smith plays awkwardness so well, and unfortunately for Matt Smith on this list, awkwardness is not RIZZ. I'm sorry. I can't put him any higher, but you know what? I love Matt Smith, and I understand why, for a lot of us, he's our favorite. So, let's move on. Number 11, the Fourth Doctor, played by Tom Baker. This Doctor is legitimately probably the highest percentage when you are asking people, what's your favorite Doctor? Like, the most people will probably say Tom Baker. He has his very unique way of dressing, but you know what? Again, just like some of the other ones on these lower tiers of the list, I don't really think this Doctor is overly concerned with charisma, but he's still a really good Doctor. And again, keep in mind that this list is not a list of the best Doctors, it's just RIZZ. That is where I put this Doctor. Let's move on. Number 10. The Eighth Doctor. So interestingly, I saw this Doctor in the Doctor Who movie not recently, so I had to go back and watch parts of the movie to get a good sense of the Eighth Doctor as portrayed in the movie. And actually, his portrayal in the movie is what I'm going to be scoring here, because if you go with Big Finish audio, this Doctor would be higher on the list. But if I'm going with just what we saw in the movie, which I think is fair because this list is mainly supposed to be a ranking of the Doctors as portrayed in their main series, you know, the numbered Doctors, I have to put the 8th Doctor here because, you know what, we're breaking into that category of Doctors that really have some of the RIZZ and the charm, but he's kind of hampered on this list by the fact that he is quite awkward, and they were trying to bring that in from the classic series, having him not truly just be the suave action hero. If you look at him and his style, you know, it is quite smooth, but, you know, he still is playing very much an alien, like a Time Lord, in a way that is not necessarily strong on the RIZZ. So that's where I put him here, but we are breaking now into the Doctors that bring the RIZZ and the charm a little bit, but for him, it's still heavily mitigated by the fact that he was playing the quirky 90s movie sci-fi protagonist. So let's move on. Number 9, the 14th Doctor, played by David Tennant for the Doctor Who specials in 2023. So this Doctor, being a returning Doctor, is very interesting to rank on this list because he is playing, like I said, a return Doctor, and it's hard to mentally separate him from the other Doctor that he played previously. But I think this time, David Tennant's Doctor, I think he was a little bit more heavy on the emotion and a little bit less heavy on the superficial things about that Doctor that make him iconic. So, well, I think he was definitely more vulnerable, and I think he definitely had a lot more heart. He played more into that than he did the RIZZ. So I'm putting him lower on this list, but this guy still has a lot of charm because, I mean, come on, it's David Tennant playing the Doctor. We're breaking into the more charming Doctors on this. I'm just telling you why I'm ranking him lower than the 10th Doctor on this list and why he's about here on the list. But again, we're getting into some of the more RIZZ-y Doctors, so let's see what else is on this list. Hey, number 8, the 10th Doctor. So here we go again. This is the Doctor played by David Tennant the first time, and this Doctor, he's just really iconic. He's got the coat, he's got the shoes, he's got just that look, he's got that thing he does with his voice that they talked about in the Doctor Who on his trailer when his voice goes high-pitched. This Doctor has so many catchphrases, he's very stylish, and you know what? I might put him higher on the list if it weren't for the fact that this Doctor, again, is still bringing in a lot of that quirkiness that really separates the Doctor from other sci-fi characters. And again, I know this is going to be a thing that I say a lot on this list, but it's getting hard because this is sort of the purgatory of this list, right? I can't decide which trait is stronger, the RIZZ or the awkwardness. And with the 10th Doctor, that's what's so great about him. He's both at the same time, and he's personable, and he's the guy that you want to go on an adventure with. Who does not love the 10th Doctor? Number 7. The 9th Doctor, played by Christopher Eccleston. We're starting to break into the really cool Doctors. All the Doctors are cool in their own way, but these Doctors are the really cool Doctors. This one is a Doctor who is confident, he knows what he's doing, and not so much so that he never questions what he's doing, but this is a Doctor who knows what he's about, he's on a mission, he's very focused, and he's not going to let any force of evil get in his way. He's also dealing with a lot of trauma from the Time War. So he is a little bit more hardened, and intentionally or not, this makes him a lot cooler in the way he presents himself a lot of the time. I'm not sure if that's what the showrunner was going for, but that's what it is here. And I think this is one of the Doctors that just really is iconic and cool. We're getting near the top of the list, and here he is, the 9th Doctor, played by Christopher Eccleston. What a great Doctor. Number 6. The 6th Doctor. Hey, I knew it was going to happen eventually. The 6th Doctor, played by Colin Baker. And what I'll say about this Doctor is he is very brash. He is a Doctor who's going to present himself as being in control. Whether or not he actually is a separate question, but this is a Doctor who is not afraid to tell you what he thinks needs to be done. He will tell you if he thinks you're doing something wrong, and he will call you out to your face. And he did that in this season 23 story known as Trial of a Time Lord. What a iconic story. And he stood up there when on trial by the Time Lords and just called them out for their corruption. This Doctor has to act through this terrible coat that he's wearing. He has to have this performance come through while wearing this horrible multicolored coat that, I'm sorry to say this, but it's one of the most recognizable things about this Doctor. How can you wear that coat and come off as cool and in control still? How can you bring that personality where you just radiate this sense of urgent in-controlness? How can you do that? I have to put him high on this list because he's able to do that. Colin Baker, fantastic Doctor, the 6th Doctor. Getting into the top 5 now, number 5, the 7th Doctor. And wow, this Doctor is just a really awesome Doctor. If I had to describe this Doctor in one word, and I know I've used it on this list already, but I would describe this Doctor as focused. This is a Doctor who is focused and who's going to take charge of a situation. He has a darker side, he has a funny side. He doesn't spend a lot of his time with quipping though, you know? He spends a lot of his time just going through and sort of being in charge and telling people the way that it is, but he's not doing it so much that he's sort of pompous, you know? He can also be very reserved. He's quietly trying to figure things out, and his style is dapper, and some of the stuff is a little bit on the nose, like the question mark umbrella, that's true, but also, I think it really works for him. I think people watching Classic Who, watching Sylvester McCoy, really get a sense of who this Doctor is very quickly, and I think there's a reason for that. His performance is really good, and his chemistry with his companions is also stellar, especially Ace. So when you're watching the 7th Doctor, you know who he is. His style is very cool. He has that swagger. He doesn't flaunt it very often, but he definitely has it. And what a cool Doctor this is. Sylvester McCoy, the 7th Doctor. Number 4, the 1st Doctor. Now, this is a Doctor I really took to the first time I watched him. If I had to use a word to describe him, it would be academic. This Doctor has a couple different sides to him. When he starts, he has a more hard exterior where he's a lot grumpier, but he becomes a lot warmer as his time progresses on the show. But throughout that whole time, we get a sense of this Doctor because he is the academic Doctor. He is the original, you might say. He's the one traveling around space and time with his granddaughter Susan, and you know what? He has a very different way of operating the TARDIS. You know, at the beginning he was going out and collecting samples a lot of time when he was going to the different worlds and stuff, but he's genuinely inquisitive, and whenever there's a problem, he tries to rise to the occasion and get it solved, and he's not afraid to wag his finger and tell you when you're doing something wrong. His style is there. He doesn't really bring attention to it, though. The black and white of the era really helps with this. He's a very sort of old, wise male archetype as far as the teacher goes, from more of that sort of classic literature, you might say. And for that reason, this Doctor's got a heck of a lot of charisma, so I've got to put him at number 4 on this list. Wow. Number 3, the 3rd Doctor. The number matched up again. The coincidence, so nice I did it twice. The 3rd Doctor, my personal favorite Doctor. This guy. So he knows Venusian Aikido. He throws in some martial arts. He's got a very snappy way of talking. He drives around a car, which is called Bessie. Who does that except for a really cool guy, right? And he's the kind of guy who will get in a sword fight on a sea base and stop to eat a sandwich, or karate kick a gun out of someone's hand, you know, or stand there with his nemesis and have the respect for everyone around there to have to work with his nemesis when he has to, and then they go right back to being enemies in the way that Time Lords do. This guy, look at it, look at the way he dresses, right? Look at his style. We're talking like, they call him in the Honest trailer, I believe, the snake-headed Kung Fu Austin Powers Doctor, and that's very accurate. Pertwee, wow, he just really lays down the sass with this Doctor. His era is so great, and the way he played off of everyone around him in the unit family, and he had, I think, 3 companions that he went through in his run, and he was just great with all of them. Jon Pertwee, in my opinion, the best Doctor. But number 3 when it comes to RIZZ. Who are these other 2 Doctors who are actually in front of him on the list? Let's find out. Number 2, the 15th Doctor, played by Ncuti Gatwa. Now think about this. How cool do you have to be to end up number 2 on this list after only having one real episode. That's right, from the time that Shurigawa showed up on the screen at the end of the regeneration up until the end of his first real episode, which was the Church on Ruby Road, this guy just hit the ground running. He's got it all. He's got the fashion sense. He's got the humor. He's got the sass of being above it all. This guy just, from the moment he showed up on the screen, he was the Doctor. And that is really, really difficult to do. I thought about this a lot, but I really think I can't put him any lower on this list because just the way he conducts himself, the way he goes around talking to people when he needs information, the way he meets new people. I mean, he meets a few different characters, just walks up in their house, and it's like he's already friends with them because that's who this guy is. He's so friendly, he's so likable. He can put a smile on your face so quickly, and it's just everything you want from the Doctor in terms of RIZZ. He is so good at this, and I'm so excited to see what else he does with this show. All right, so I've named a lot of really cool doctors, but there's one doctor that rises above the rest. There's one doctor who shows more charisma than all of the others. Who might that doctor be? None other than, number one, the 12th Doctor, played by Peter Capaldi. This doctor just fumes charisma. I mean, look at this guy. Look at him. Look at what he's doing. You know, he has it all in this portrayal. He started out as the more grumpy Doctor. People call him sort of the awkward grandpa Doctor. But you know what? By the end of his run, he found a way to work that into his character. He knew what he wanted to portray, and he did it. He had the awkward grandpa energy, and he just ran with it. He doesn't care if everyone thinks he's the awkward grandpa. He knows he's cool. What kind of doctor travels back in time to a medieval period and shreds guitar on top of a tank while wearing a pair of sonic sunglasses? What kind of doctor faces off with the Daleks while sitting in a chair and drinking a cup of tea and knowing that they wouldn't dare hurt him in a way that he couldn't manage? What kind of doctor can deliver a speech to his mortal enemy in a way that makes him feel bad and change his mind? What other doctor can do all those things? What other doctor can turn around after doing all that stuff and make you feel so warm inside with his sentiments of like living life, and then turn around in the same episode and just make you feel terrified when he delivers one of his speeches to one of his enemies? This doctor has a swagger, this doctor has a style, this doctor knows what he's doing, and I absolutely think he deserves to be at the top of this list for RIZZ. Peter Capaldi, the 12th Doctor, wow, what a performance. Those 3 seasons are my favorite 3 of the show, and in my opinion, he's just the most enjoyable Doctor to watch. Episodes like Heaven Sent, I don't know what other Doctor could have pulled them off in that way. He's just a Doctor who can sit there and give a performance by himself for an entire episode of Doctor Who, and you're just captivated the whole time. Peter Capaldi. That's it, guys, for my list of doctors with their ranking in terms of RIZZ. What did you think of my list? I want to point this out before I leave you guys. This list is kind of silly. It's not really supposed to be taken all that seriously. At the end of the day, we love the Doctor for being brave and having a sense of adventure and having a sense of right and wrong and never being cruel and never being cowardly. Charisma is just one aspect of the Doctor's personality. And whether the Doctor has a lot of it or not, we would love to go on an adventure with the Doctor. We would love to meet the Doctor, and I cannot wait to meet the adventures that this Doctor is going to have in this new season. Until next time, guys, I'll see you later. Thanks so much for watching, and allons-y.